maybe this world is already like that, and just some very few people get to be different, get to think different.
Welcome to What's My Thesis. I'm your host, Javier Proenza, and today my guest is Juan Pablo Hurtado. Where are you at, man? I've never been clear because you post so much in Spanish.
It's one of those weird connections that we have on Instagram. I mean, I'm from Guadalajara, Mexico.
But that's where you're at now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I've never left this
You've never left.
No, no. I mean, I've traveled, but I was born and raised here, being here
If
all
I
my
was an
life.
American that was thinking of like maybe moving to Mexico and gentrifying, what would be like the best place that's affordable?
Don't ask me that question, man. I mean, I'm not supposed to cross picket lines, and things are getting real weird here. So
Yeah, no,
so
I bet.
no. I mean, just recently, the state of media is weird as well. I mean, so you'll hear things from X or Y person, and and the answer will be completely different to what somebody else tells you. And the same with professional opinions. Travel magazines, travel blogs, and shit like that. They recently came out with top 10 cities to live in the world, top
Mhm.
10 neighborhoods in cities, like the coolest neighborhoods in cities.
Mhm.
And the first one was actually here, from
Really?
across Google. Yeah, yeah. It's bullshit, man. But I mean, we make fun of it. I mean, it's not. First of all, I mean, what are you measuring against? It's dumb. But yeah. So expats usually come from in a place near Guadalajara, near my town, but it's a lakeside town, so they
Okay.
go there to have the nice weather. The beaches are getting gentrified.
Mhm.
Mexico City is the top spot. So,
I just want to own
uh,
property so that when BlackRock ends up buying everything,
yeah,
I
yeah,
have something to sell them. And then
yeah. Go ahead. I mean, there are a couple of nice beaches
I'm kidding. We don't
it's
have to get
to the
into
north of here. No, I mean, do you have you heard of Puerto Vallarta?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so there's this area, and there are a couple of smaller towns, more hippie-like towns, more artistry oriented. So there's a market for everybody,
Yeah, yeah.
actually. Yeah.
Well, how do you speak English like so fluently and like you that's why I never knew if I'm just surprised how far is Guadalajara from the border? What's the situation?
Yeah, so for example, if you go a little bit to the central part of Mexico, it's 8 hours to Mexico
Mhm.
City, more or less. Flying out, it's about 2 or 3 hours to Los Angeles.
Okay.
So yeah, it's I mean it's quite well connected. I mean I can get anywhere from here. So
So you have left, you just haven't lived anywhere else.
yeah, that travel. I have family in California,
And the English
so
comes from where? Just
no,
movies?
that's just me. You'll hear about my story if you want to. My
Yeah, yeah, for
mom
sure. That's
was
that's what we're getting into. So how
my mom was really overprotective of me when I was small kid. So I had to learn a lot of things for myself. And I started reading. I just picked up a book in English like when I was like 11, 12. I kind of learned to be self-sufficient in that regard.
wow.
And I was reading and speaking it by that time. It just came to me.
Did you have anybody to talk? Like, do people speak English?
No, just watching shitloads of movies and
So
cartoons
that's where the
and
Americans
video games.
play.
Video games, yeah.
Do you play like you are you like playing online with people on mics? Is that what you
No,
mean?
no,
No,
not really.
just like
No, I'm
from
I'm a
just the same
loner.
way you would from
Yeah.
movies.
So my main genre is like RPGs, role playing games.
Okay.
So a
They're
lot of
story
text, a lot
heavy.
of dialogue. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
And a lot of
so
reading sometimes too.
exactly. And I've spent so much time there. I don't know.
All right,
It's
now I know how I'm gonna
another
raise
world.
my kids. Make them play RPGs in different languages.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, if that had happened in Japanese, maybe I would have been a
Well, I'm
Japanese speaker.
thinking
I don't know.
I think in there has to be some games in Mandarin, I'm sure. Or you can
Yeah.
play like or you can play any game in Mandarin. So like because I know
Be careful of propaganda.
well no, but the like that was the thing, the main thing that all the kids when I was coaching soccer, like all the
Mhm.
kids were in like Mandarin programs. No,
Yeah.
no, not can't yeah, Mandarin, not Cantonese.
Mandarin is like the accessible business one. Like,
Yeah, I think that they see where the things are headed and they're like, yeah, maybe
yeah,
English
you
is
gotta get
not
good at this shit. Yeah.
we're not necessarily going to be in a dollar economy, dollar based global economy anymore. So you know, God, man, like how pathetic is the UK going to be when we're irrelevant? Because they're like our little lapdog.
I mean, who knows what direction things are gonna take? I mean,
You,
it's
oh,
just kind
I'm
of like
pretty
a
sure.
coin toss in the air. Right now,
Oh,
it's floating right there,
I'm
and it
pretty
can
sure we're
land
going.
either way, and it's gonna be funny to see either way.
You think America has a choice to stay in the running with BRICS and all of that stuff that's going on? I think it's pretty severe how sick people are of our stuff globally, and like everybody wants to be part of BRICS. You've got BRICS, which
You
is China
know,
and Russia. Like you think America has the staying power with just the military?
I was watching like I like watching documentaries on YouTube. I mean,
Mhm.
the kind of amateurish ones. They're not really serious things produced by money and things like that, just people
Yeah.
grabbing their ideas and putting things out there. And they were talking about the definition of power. I mean, politics politics is one way, violence is another one, and you've got it all. I mean,
Yeah, but
you
our
have
movies
power of
suck now
voice and you
too.
have power of lead, and I
Yeah.
mean, it's weird.
I don't know. I mean, it's fair. It's interesting to hear a perspective from outside because, like, I from inside, it just looks like it's deteriorating, and we see all the moves that people are doing. Like all the de-dollarization is crazy.
Yeah,
But anyway, I mean, this
but I mean, people have Plan B, Plan C, Plan.
I hope
People
so
who
because I
wish
live
to
here.
stay in power, they will do whatever it takes, and we're not gonna like it.
Yeah.
It's recently. I mean, this morning I was watching a presidential contender. And they're coming up now because elections are coming up. They're popping out of the blue, or
Like American
career
ones.
career no Mexican
Okay.
career politicians, and we know them. We know who they are, but they're just talking with words that we use, so they
Mhm.
assume we're gonna like them the
Yeah,
better
yeah,
for
yeah.
that. But it's crazy. Uh, this one is proposing a program, and he calls it Angel Program or something,
Hmm.
and it's all about surveillance. It's
Oh
all
yeah.
about drones, facial recognition. They kind of measure how you walk to determine if you're a criminal or not.
Oh,
Uh,
that
yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like
it's
pseudoscience.
profiling. It's profiling in a weird way. And they have gun detection, gunshot detection. He's touting it as the next big thing, the safest era in Mexico,
Oh
and
wow.
it's weird. And I mean, but where did they get their ideas from? It's not
Oh
like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
original.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. They just read
you're following somebody
1984.
else's steps. I mean, for sure.
But I
But
think I think that you bring up an interesting point because no matter what how that coin flip lands, it's not like
mhm.
China and Russia aren't into surveillance and censorship too,
Yeah,
right?
no, no. I mean,
Like
it's
however
gonna
it
be
goes, it's
bad either way. I mean, that's what
yeah.
I say. Either way it lands, it's gonna be fun to watch, to say the least. I'm not worried because I'm past worrying. I'm one of those persons who's like, ah, fuck it.
Yeah. How old are you?
I don't care.
When were you born?
44.
44. Oh, so we're like
Yeah.
almost the same age. So we
Hmm.
have the same cultural references, but from different countries.
And that's funny. I mean, but I think, can you even trace back, or even measure at this point, your influences from a Latin country?
Uh, like from Costa Rica, yeah, maybe a little bit, but like
Yeah.
that's more in the way that I speak because my accent,
Hmm.
it like that was where I learned to speak Spanish, so I don't have a
Hmm.
Cuban accent. I sound Central American, and
I can tell. I mean,
yeah,
I'm such bad at accents. So anyway.
but what's it called? I mean, I also don't have the most fluid accent. I like if I'm in Miami for a while, I just pick up Cuban accent, like because that's just how it is.
So
And my
your
English,
parents were your father was from
both my parents are Cuban refugees.
Cuban. Okay. Yeah.
So they came. My mom came Peter Pan, so she came by herself in that
Mm-hmm.
exilio. There's like so many different ones. They have the Marielitos, and they just recently
Mm-hmm.
had another one.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then my dad, he went through Mexico and he loved Mexico, so
Yeah.
that's why But I've only been to like Tijuana to do dirty things,
Mm-hmm.
not like
Mm-hmm.
sexual dirty things, like drug dirty things.
No
Uh,
judgment here, man. I mean, we're beyond that as well. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, dude, it's like it all at a certain point, it just sucks to be our neighbor.
Yeah. But conditions are equally nasty everywhere.
Yeah,
Sometimes we don't really realize. I mean, especially if you're in in that position where you've done well, you're kind of gliding through and
yeah,
have
yeah.
little things to worry about. How tape and plaster everything is. It's held by
A
very
rajatablas.
very fine threads,
Yeah.
and it's fragile and it breaks easily, and it's continuously changing to a degree that you don't
Well, the
often
lock
see. Yeah.
without talking about it too specifically, the lockdowns were one of the craziest things that's ever happened
Hmm.
in the
And
history
then
of
nobody
any.
was ready for it because we were so comfortable in our day to day that looks
Yeah.
exactly the same, the one after the other. It's
And
funny.
so some people like me still live in lockdown. Like,
I
like
am. I mean,
I
I
mean, not
started
that I don't
going out.
socialize, but like I don't go to a work site. I don't do any of that
It's
shit.
been minimized. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm more comfortable at home, and I've always been. I think. I think I was mostly forced to socialize by my peers and things like that at times. And it didn't end well because I'm not that person.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
much more comfortable here. So my lockdown continues. It's the way I like it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's also crazy because to be 43 right now and think of like where I've managed to squeak myself to get myself to, and just
Mhm.
not even being able to comprehend what future generations are going to be able to get for themselves. Because like compared to what anybody like of my parents' generation got to,
It's
like, I don't have a
yeah,
house.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
do and I'm doing better than most of my friends, like
Mhm.
honestly, especially in the art scene. And I'm like it's crazy to me. It really
Yeah.
is like insane how much wealth gets more and more. We're also in an interesting time because we've been able to like have like our desire to be famous and celebrities exploited to make us sacrifice privacy, where we're going back to like pre-enlightenment ideologies
Yeah.
right now, where like you can't, like, people are like pro censorship, there's no habeas corpus, there's like people can just get like extraordinary rendition is like something that you can
Yeah.
do to citizens. So like what we're and then the conversation about what is after postmodernism is really interesting, and I've been getting into it. And what I like about the idea of meta modernism is that it's sort of this like return to like the human side of it. Like, we tried to be postmodern for so
Hmm.
long, and now people are just becoming super dogmatic, right? And
Yeah.
like politically
It,
dogmatic.
that's funny, but it's a matter of compensation, I think. So there are things that historically have hurt you so bad that you go and overcompensate, and
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
overdo it. Um, is it a matter of a wave that it's reaching equilibrium by itself? We don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody really tries to understand things how they oscillate between total repression and a weird kind of freedom where you're actually want everybody to be exactly as free as you want freedom to be. And that's kind of like the opposite of freedom.
Yeah, yeah. It's just it's just a real interesting thing. Everybody thinks that they're fighting
The
like
good fight.
the good fight, right? Like everybody thinks they're on the
Yeah.
right side of things and they're so passionate. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm so not interested in that argument.
I
Like,
mean, it's gotten old for sure.
yeah, yeah.
And have you tried this as a kid to repeat one word over and over until it loses its
Drawer,
entire
drawer.
meaning?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it just sounds. And we're surrounded by the exact same sound bites all over the place, and people don't even try to see what's behind that. They just know the words work.
Yeah. Well, I always reference the last Matrix movie that everybody hated, but
Hmm.
there's a philosophical element in
So
there.
the fourth one,
Yeah, the
the
fourth one.
re something
Reloaded, I think, or something.
rearrangement. Yeah, it was.
Did you
Yeah,
watch it? I
weird.
actually really like
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but everybody hates it. But so
I don't miss out on those things. I love cheesy
yeah,
media.
yeah. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting about how what the main thesis of that movie is basically that like it's really like the question of consent to being having your eyes opened, right?
Hmm.
Because
I
basically,
deal with that a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you're like honestly, like I'm not happier than the people that that don't know what's going on.
It's a fine fucking balance.
Yeah.
And what's your duty there? I mean, if you know things, are you the master that comes to teach people how they're looking at things wrong? I mean,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's not supposed to be the way. It's weird. It
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know. I don't know.
it's a strange
I
thing,
have
but yeah,
theories, of course. Yeah. And
you have theories of what?
yeah, I'm in lockdown and everything. I've picked up a lot of books
Oh
about
yeah.
philosophy and shit like that.
What philosophers appeal to you the most right now?
I'm not a traditional study person because I don't work like that. My brain works in a weird way. I go different places. I start 10 pages from a book and then I get bored and I pick up a new one. But I get the gist of it. I
So like
have the themes.
what ideas then are the ones
Uh,
that you're
suppose
working with?
suppose you would put me in a quadrant of known categories, like or like a map of known categories. I would be more of an anarchist, think like
Anarchist?
that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm interested in knowing about. I don't know if I align to anything of those things yet. We call there's several definitions, but it's called inhumanism.
Humanism?
Inhumanism.
Inhumanism? What does that mean?
It
Like
will
the
it
lack
will
of
be something
humanity?
different to different person. No, it's to me it's we can actually throw the baby out with the bathwater and start something new.
Oh,
You know?
like in terms of society.
Yeah, yeah. And so I don't do a lot of classical thinkers. I mean, I think that we as a society have integrated those beliefs and those thoughts in ways that maybe academics don't even realize yet. So I think we
Yeah.
know more than we know, and
In terms of what? In terms of
in terms of everything. I mean, we're so much smarter than we give ourselves credit for.
yeah. Well, yeah,
And
I
then
people are like the media's job is to highlight how we're fucking the worst of every angle, right? Like they'll like
yeah,
they'll put you know the worst examples of drag shows with kids and highlight that as opposed to
mhm.
like like okay, one drag person dances in front of kids, like okay, we can talk about that, but then they make that the whole fucking thing and it becomes this weird thing. And same thing with like Joe Rogan, like
Yeah. I mean, but that's to me a very separate matter.
okay,
Being in society as to what we actually have inside of us,
No, I agree with you. I
Yeah,
tend to look
because
past those two angles. I'm like, I don't give
yeah.
a fuck about either of those things, you know?
I mean, in humanism, or whatever way you want to see it, because some people tend to look at that in a very gradual manner. So you like clawing out from the inside out and being very careful and respectful about how you go about that process of changing things. Um, but I think it can be any kind of speed. I mean, you can do it like in years if you
Hmm.
want to. Uh, the fact is that we don't agree on what we should change and what should stay,
Well,
Uh,
there's also
so
so many financial interests, which makes it really
it,
impossible.
it, it,
You know,
there are a lot of
like
attachments for sure.
like the main attachments here are just Wall Street. The main obstacles to anything I would say in the U.S. are Wall Street, military industrial complex, which includes the gun manufacturing, because guns are basically the only. And I'm not anti-gun, dude. I lived in
Hmm.
Florida. I understand why some people want fucking guns. Like,
Yeah,
it makes sense. And I also think that, like, even though it's very easy to just be like, oh, the government's gonna roll over you with guns, I'm like, they're gonna fucking think about it, and they're
yeah.
gonna take
I
a
mean,
moment. They're gonna
you
have to
don't
have
overpower them at
yeah,
all. I
yeah, yeah.
mean, they're gonna not gonna defend. I mean, they're gonna defend very little because you have one, they have 10.
You have what?
You have one gun, they have 10.
Yeah, but at
So
the same
you won't
time,
have
they
a
also don't want to
change.
get shot. So
I mean,
yeah, so it's not
are they
it's
gonna use it? They have used it. I
they
mean,
have, but then what happens? Things like Ruby Ridge, things
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. The
Waco,
messy
messy
situations. Yeah.
shit that makes them look terrible. So it's
And
not
then
that.
it's in I mean, it creates a very bad consequences for both sides. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
how you
so
handle it from the law side, how you end up hurting more people from the inside. I don't know. It's a complex dynamic.
and yeah, man. Are you drawing right now?
No, no, I'm doing my nails.
Uh, um, yeah. So
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 yeah, but
go ahead.
yeah, just to close on that. What I mean is, I don't really like the classics. I think a lot of people have read the classics. I mean, they're the basis of where we are right now.
Mhm.
So I read more modern stuff. I think it's best to check out on the current status of things. Maybe things have already been settled in the past. Maybe they haven't. But the discussion is today. So I like to read heavy stuff. I mean, like this
So,
one. It's called.
so
Where is it?
what's the new state? Like, where is anarchism
For
now?
example, anarchism. I haven't even gotten to read on that. I mean, that's
Okay.
kind of like more intuitive stance. But for example, this is the unfinished system of non-knowledge,
Okay.
and it's by George Bataille, French, um, and it's about how you can't know things. You can't grasp reality. You can know exactly how one system works, things like that, things of that nature. And he goes back to Nietzsche and all of those people. But this is the thing that I like to read, and
So then,
it's going in a very different direction than the mainstream.
what are you so, like, anarchism, my understanding is that it's traditionally a leftist ideal, but it also has there's the anarcho capitalism, which is
Yeah,
like a
there
more
are
right.
offshoots.
Yeah.
So no, if there's a heated conversation about it, I try to stay away from it because I mean it's gonna be the same arguments against the same arguments, and it's gonna not gonna end
But are you
anywhere.
but you're more of a traditional
And
anarchist?
no, no, on the contrary. I mean, it's a very fundamental level of anarchism where there are no hierarchy structures
Hmm.
and many moneyless, classless society. Then that's kind of like the end goal. Uh, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you might as well call it utopia. I mean, if you go past the what's the fucking practicality of actually getting somewhere like that, and people say that about it. It's not something that you do. It's something you advocate for, and it's present all throughout history. So there's always been anarchists in one way or another.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I mean,
but
big ones
that
are
that's where I
Abby
sit.
Hoffman.
I don't know.
He was a yippie.
Uh-huh.
Uh, for like, but
What did
anyway,
he do?
well, he was the there was the big trial, the Chicago 7, I think it was, where they made a big spectacle of it. It was like with all the radicals of the 1960s. I
Mm-hmm,
had
mm-hmm.
Skip Williamson, I think, or Wilson or something like that. I had his daughter on the show, and she talked
Oh,
about it.
okay,
But
cool.
basically, yeah, so then, like, what is your political? Do you have like what is the like political landscape in Mexico? Are you at all
Yeah,
interested?
I mean it's either left or right.
But
And
is it
but
like what's the situation with
so,
it?
yeah, it's weird. So we're more. There's more than two parties.
Okay,
There's actually anyone can and meets a certain requirement can register a new party, a new
okay,
political party. So that's a weird kind of democracy because at the end of the day, the politicians themselves come from the same circle, the same sphere. So it doesn't matter who they
yeah,
ally
yeah.
to. Yeah, they're gonna shit you
But
to death anyway. And it's the traditional one. I think they lost up until the 90s or something. It's pre
they went
revolutionary. They're the one that came after the revolution, but then they became their own kind of power against
yeah, they won
yeah
every year for
the
like
interest, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and corruption and things like that. And then came the National Action, Partido Acción Nacional. That's the conservative one, the very very conservative, family values,
mhm,
nothing, no
very
gay shit
Catholic.
here, yeah. And then there's the lefties, PRD. Morena, it's actually the one in power right now. Movimiento
That's
Republican something. AMLO, yeah,
AMLO.
their current baby president. So it's all the same. They come from the same places, and
But
they're friends with everybody.
so he isn't. It's what do you like? You guys are not excited about BRICS, about having your own like other unipolar organization? Because I mean that's pretty significant. You know, especially that Mexico. It's Mexico, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
Or yeah, it's Mexico, Brazil, China, Russia,
there's a
and
couple of them. Yeah,
yeah, and everybody wants to get in. So what does BRICS
yeah.
stand for? Do you know? Let me look it up real quick. Because this
Let
is a
me.
really interesting like global change that's happening.
Mexico is not there, like in the acronym. Brazil, Russia, India,
Oh, okay.
China, South Africa.
South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have bigger fish to fry locally
Locally.
than to actually care about those things.
But those things
And
are significant. I mean, our
but
entire our America's entire
yeah,
empire is based on foreign policy. So
but that's the thing about Mexico. I think if we are to speak in broad terms, I mean, we're not a monolith. I mean, blah blah blah. Um, we're heavily invested in political subjects, but to a very very well defined spectrum.
okay.
Like there are zones where we will fight and cry and shout, but foreign policy is not something that regularly attracts regular people.
What are the main local things?
Yeah, like gay trans
Aborto.
rights, yeah, women rights, uh, um, security, safety in public spaces, uh, drug and
Yeah.
organized crime. Da, 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 da,
I bet that's a big one. It like do politicians I mean, they're probably in bed with them anyway,
no, no,
right?
they haven't criticized because they are openly soft on them.
Yeah.
They're very permissive,
I mean, I would
and
say that
then
that's scary. It's scary shit to talk shit about cartels, though.
I mean, if I die, die. I mean, no, it's a touchy subject.
Yeah.
It has a lot of nasty implications.
You
Um,
guys have a cartel, Guadalajara?
yeah, Guadalajara in the state of Jalisco. So there's
Jalisco.
our own Jalisco Nueva Generación. It's a cartel.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So we
how
have that.
does that affect your day-to-day life at all?
So there's kind of like a not 20, 30 minutes from my place. There's a monument.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be like a commemorative monument to some people who did something for the nation. Now it's covered in posters for missing persons.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the main problems locally, I mean, in this area or the hot zones for the narco business, they force labor or whatever they extract whatever they need to run their operations from regular people that they find on the streets.
So there's
So
a lot
they
of
offer
labor
the
trafficking.
jobs, they offer the jobs, they kidnap them. So yeah, it's one of the biggest problems right
Wow.
now locally.
Okay.
So I mean, staying at home right now is not a nonsensical proposition.
Really?
It's tough out there. Yeah,
Is it really dangerous? Like just walking around?
and not in the usual places for tourists and the bourgeois. No, it's not unsafe for them.
But like
The
for you,
people
like
who are missing come from the peripheries, the forgotten places. And
so you would be more in danger if you lived somewhere more rural?
yeah, but you have to come here for your work, to the
Yeah.
nice places because there's no work elsewhere. So this coming and going presents the perfect situation for people to disappear.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And this is you are you talking specifically about labor trafficking? Is that a business that happens there or
We
is it
don't know
just
where they go. That's
okay.
that's the thing. There's no statistics, and there's actually very little work done on mitigating this situation.
Yeah.
So we don't have a lot of information to work with because nobody does much.
Yeah. It's so crazy, especially because like we're so deep, like America's so deeply responsible for that, right? It's the same thing as like when we prohibited alcohol here, and then all the gangs started to like I mean, like the mob ran heroin for fucking a long time. There's better
Hmm.
solutions to this stuff instead of criminalizing and making an industry, but then there's benefit from that, right?
Yeah, then you, I mean, people underestimate people all the time. So
Mhm.
this thing about finding a solution for a problem and creating a new problem with the solution is this thing I'm talking about. You overcompensate and you don't fix. I was listening to this documentary about the anarchy thing, and there was a quote by somebody said, "There's a lot of people nipping at the branches of what's wrong, of evil, if you want to call it that way."
Mhm.
Um, didn't say this, but often while sitting on their own evil branches, because
Yeah,
those are
yeah,
to be protected. But there's very few people digging down at the roots
yeah,
of
yeah.
evil. So people are weird and they will do shit you don't even imagine when you present them the opportunity to be drugged at all times and you don't fix their conditions, the living conditions, you don't offer what they actually want because it's not drugs they want.
Yeah, yeah.
The drugs is something intermediate, it's something in between another thing, and you don't offer them anything but drugs, and you end up with things like I don't know. I've seen documentaries well about Toronto and then Seattle. It's bad out there, man.
Oh, and this country is awful. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, my whole premise in the central premise of my worldview is
Mm.
that we've been doing fucked up shit to Latin America, to South Pacific Asian countries, to African countries, right? Like we've basically fucked all of these countries up, and then they're sick of that shit. Like they really don't want.
Yeah, and then
Like
we circle back. Yeah.
we're trying to get the African nations to what's it called to arrest Putin when he comes to visit or like condemn him And because they're not within our media bubble, they're like, fuck you, right? And then it just becomes this really, really strange thing. Speaking of what you were saying, one of the things that's crazy that it doesn't get talked about, and going back to what I was saying about how like they make like the media's job is to demonize people, right? To demonize
Hmm.
trans people, to demonize drag people,
Hmm.
make them all groomers, make them all that. Like what there's like, like you watch YouTube, it's almost
Hmm.
unavoidable to have right wing shit pop up, like right wing
Yeah, yeah.
perspective. It's
I
like
actually look for it. I mean,
no, I do too. I find the
it's
voices
very, very important to hear what everybody has to say. It's
absolutely,
out
but
of principle.
one of the things that I notice is that a lot of these people who are actually pretty reasonable in other areas, right? Like
Hmm.
they have very salient critiques of stuff
Yeah.
that are good. Like I actually Joe Rogan is a perfect example. I think Joe
Hmm.
Rogan is pretty much a lefty in
Hmm.
very many ways, and I would say like that. And people like liberals are like find that shit shocking because they hear all the propaganda about that dude, right? But like
Yeah.
he's an example of somebody that's very much about crime and punishment and like legal stuff because it happens when you fucking get rich that you don't
Hmm.
want your shit to get stolen. So it's like that's one of the things that makes people
Exactly. Yeah.
more conservative. So
Yeah.
I whatever. I disagree with him on policing pretty strongly, but one of the things that's being so hyped up is San Francisco, the decline of San Francisco.
Hmm.
And then you have people like who's also a right winger, Patrick Bet David, who like I disagree with him on a lot of stuff, but
Hmm.
sometimes I listen because he's like, yeah, you know what? It's probably a good idea to buy JP Morgan.
Okay, you're
as,
investing. You're investing. Clever boy.
as
Yeah.
unethical. I mean, I'm not gonna buy JP Morgan, but it's good to hear like someone who has a different ethical code
Yeah.
speak plainly about our economy in a way that's
Hmm.
not like emotional. But one of the things that he was saying is that like because of the pandemic, they have hollowed out the the real estate, like the commercial real estate market has
Hmm.
collapsed because
Yeah.
people are working from home, and that
Oh
has
yeah, and
brought
offices are cheap as fuck right
yeah,
now.
and that has brought down San Francisco and cities like
Hmm.
that where it just like
They
the
depended on them that kind of
and
money.
then you have the like MSNBC talking about the crime in San Francisco, not acknowledging that there is like nobody there. It's
Yeah.
not the business are leaving not only because they're getting robbed, but because there's nobody fucking shopping there because there's nobody in downtown because there's no commercial real estate. So
Yeah.
like that, this is like one of the things that I love about what we were talking about, but this that like immigration in this country is divided into left and right where like the right is like don't let people in because they take our jobs, and then the left is like oh that's racist, and then the left sends the jobs away through NAFTA and shit, and then it like and globalizes the country, and so the net effect, they're both serving the same master, right? Like
Yeah,
cheap labor,
it's
and
a fucking endless
one
circle.
is shipping jobs away and the other one doesn't want the fucking immigrants, and then both of them are bombing the shit and starving these countries. We have sanctions on 50% of the world's nations
Yeah. That's a very stupid thing to do. I mean, why would you close your doors on so much richness? I
because
mean,
they
it's
don't want
stupid.
it happens because like Venezuela wants to nationalize their oil. It happens because like we fucking stuck a bayonet up Gaddafi's ass
Yeah,
because he wanted to make the denarii, which was going
yeah.
to be its own like African currency that was like no good for
But
them.
at the end of the day, this is what we have to acknowledge: that we're up against the wall. We're stubborn people fighting with stubborn people, stubborn nations fighting with stubborn nations over usually very petty things that could take very little time to resolve. But the people who are have earned their power and their riches won't let it go.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and people who demand it can't figure out a better way to ask for things. And I think it's a feedback loop that is weird because I mean if we are to talk about it, how will we ever mature as a society? Because we can consider ourselves a global society. We have an identity right now, and right now our global identity is strife. That's the only way to put it. I mean, we're bickering bastards,
Mhm.
and it's it can change very very quickly if we let ourselves do a certain set of things. And they're not easy to implement, but
Mhm.
they're also not impossible to grasp. As you
Yeah.
know, yeah, this is probably for the best.
Then
And
it goes
we're so
into
that's what, yeah.
it goes back into that question of like the Matrix Reloaded, where it's like, is it your responsibility
I know,
to
and
wake
it's
people up and
something. I mean,
traumatize them to reality?
this is probably my stance. I mean, I won't probably do anything significant with what I know until I'm dead. So I'm probably living everything that I've thought of. Like, here's some of my thoughts. Maybe they're useful, maybe they're not. You pick it up, and that's an ethical stance. I mean, I won't be forcing my shit down anyone's throats while
Yeah.
I'm alive. Anyway, so that's why I like art. I mean, I call myself a clown because I don't take anything seriously.
Hmm.
And there are philosophical and personal reasons for that. But art is something that I've always wanted to do, but I'm fucking lazy,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
um,
You
I,
draw a
I,
lot
I,
though.
eh?
You draw a lot.
I do that, but it started out as therapy.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, um, I
When did you
was
start identifying as an artist?
so here's the story of that. I was like one day, and I remember it vividly. I was set to go to the opening of Jurassic Park 2. And I was
Lost
set to
Worlds.
go the Lost World, yeah. And I was set to go with my best friend in high school. And he didn't show up because he has been having girlfriend problems by then. So he had to, fix his shit. And I was there alone. It was raining. Uh, we used to make lines outside of the theater. We still had booths with the little circular window on them.
Yeah.
I paid for my ticket, and it was awesome. And like, this is what I want to do. And I was like, very very few times in my life I'm certain of something, but
Uh-huh.
when I am, I get so excited.
So wait, it was
And
the Lost World made you want to become an artist? That's your origin
yeah,
story? Okay, I now I need to
I
watch it.
came
What about it? What about it?
the circus of it. I mean, I like things in the big screen to go boom and wow and amaze
Uh-huh.
you. So that was it. And I came to my mom and like, Mom, I want to go to film school. Mom was
Mhm.
fuck that shit, and that's for rich people. You
Yeah,
go
yeah.
do something that makes money first, and then you do whatever you want. So I ended up studying computer engineering first,
Okay.
and I worked for 4 years at IBM. They have a branch here. Um, didn't like it. Didn't like the conditions. Didn't like the um,
Corporate America
yeah,
outside of America
yeah,
is probably
the
really stressful.
exploitation. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird. And so I, gave my notice and I enrolled in film school, and I got accepted. I think it was kind of like half and half. The committee, the admissions committee, was torn. Who the fuck are you? Why
Yeah.
you come to another bachelorship after the other one? And computers and no art. And I'm like, no, this was meant to be. I just
Yeah.
I was held up. I was otherwise occupied by commitments to my mother. So yeah, that's so I did that the film school.
I didn't
Uh,
even know you made films. I just know that you draw
I
and
no, I don't do anything. That's what I'm telling you.
you're a
I
lazy
get
artist.
really so here's the thing. I get easily disillusioned at doing the things
Uh-huh.
once I know that I can do the things. So once and this has been for me true my entire life. I mean, once I know how something works, I realize that the only true obstacle between me and doing that publicly, in a culturally relevant setting, is to mess with people. And I don't like messing with people. I don't like climbing up the social ladder because it has no meaning to me.
Oh man.
So once I do something and I know I can do it, and I know that it's only a matter of time between being, relatively good to really good at it, I drop it. And I
Yeah.
start a lot of things that I never complete. But I kind of messed with the medium for a while. I mean, I did short films. I did what was that? Fashion films.
What's
I
fashion films? Just like
So you just
outfits?
collaborate with designers,
Oh,
local
okay.
local fashion designers, on making flashy microfilms for their collections or things like
Mhm.
that. And then I kind of dabbled in that sphere, photography, and I did a couple of years of media production, more corporate shit. Yeah, we did do uh, films for brands, websites, things like that. And then I entered another large corporation, HP, the computer
Yeah,
maker.
yeah.
So it's kind of like a weird story there as well. Mm, that was 5 years. And then I had a bad breakup with them, so to speak. And now I do the drawing things. I picked up a pen. I like fountain pens,
Yeah, yeah.
and inks, and now I'm doing a little bit of digital as well. So I know, I think I know where I'm going, and at some point it will come out,
Yeah, yeah.
and it has a name, specific name. I call it the experiment, and it will come out sometime. But so far, nothing relevant, nothing truly out there artistic from
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I'm,
You
I'm
haven't
just I'm
really
just dabbling. I'm just dabbling.
you don't feel like you found a voice yet in the drawing? Because I mean, you have you definitely have like there's like gestural flair to what you do.
Oh yeah, but you
But
know,
it makes sense because I don't think I've seen too much finished work, quote unquote.
yeah,
I've seen a
that's
lot.
that's something I
You
can do.
you sketch.
That's something I can do. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you
so
work your way
I
up to it, man. Honestly,
and
like you could. I get what you're saying. You just haven't had an idea that you want to spend hours on. Because I used to be like you. Like I used to like sketch and
mhm,
like I hated doing. I still kind of hate doing a drawing that takes me more than one sitting. Like
yeah.
paint is different, but if I'm drawing and I'm using those
Mhm.
tools, I hate coming back to a drawing. You know?
And I don't. I mean, I didn't even study visual arts, so
Yeah.
that's not something that professionally I would ever think I would do. But you get better. You get better
Yeah, yeah,
with time. I mean, it's something right out of the door that you will get better. And I just let it go, man. I think I just pick up a couple of traces and start from there. I mean, it's nothing deep.
So you're not are you you're not active in like the Jalisco art scene? Is there an art scene? Do you know people?
There's like, I mean, the art scene in Mexico, it's rich. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
historically rich, and it's historically relevant as well. We're nothing to scoff at. The current one, mm, I don't know. We have everything. We have institutionally backed scenes like museums and
Mm.
private galleries. It's big in Mexico City mainly.
But
Um,
you're mostly still doing private practice? Like
yeah, and
you're are you trying to show
I'm
or no?
friends with I'm
Yeah, yeah.
friends with, and I was about to have a couple of showings this year, but things fell through because
Mm.
the people I've connected with is the independent scene. So
Yeah, yeah.
like self-managing collective
Artist
groups
run.
and individuals, um, and it's the disenfranchised spectrum. People come from oppressed backgrounds, who have a specific aesthetic and specific agenda in life that I can resonate with because,
Mm.
you know, I'm me. Um, so we do, and we have a very particular aesthetic about our work, and it's needy, it's gritty.
Mm.
I'm more of a simple person, so I do cleaner stuff, but it's aggressive and it's very, very alive. Um, and you have other circles. I mean, it's so a nice assortment of cultural spheres, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
And I'm telling you, I'm friends with, and I talk about art things in my own way. Actually, my it was my last time in Los Angeles, I think.
Mm.
So Craigslist was back then a thing, you know, Craigslist, you know, the classified
Yeah,
ad.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I put out on a note. I'm like, I just want to hang out with somebody. I'm here like doing because I kind of write as well. I
Mm.
write poetry and um, short stories and things like that. So I was on these fucked up writing retreats that I like to take from time to time. And I was in LA. I was staying at some friend's apartment in downtown LA. And I
Mm.
put on my ad and somebody with artistic inclinations come pick me up and show me around and whatever. So we ended up going like to a lot of places, you know, relevant places. He studied at Davis, I think, school.
UC Davis.
I think he studied design. He's a master's. That's good. And we still talk from time to time. And I visited a gallery there and we hung out. And then he came over, and some friends of yours as well, or maybe people that you had on the show came
Mm.
to Guadalajara.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
Alex Andrew
Oh,
Sanchez.
you know Alexander Sanchez?
So he was a friend of my friend, and he came
Oh,
down here, and I met him too.
what's your
Yeah.
friend's name? Do you know your friend's name?
Daniel Flores.
Flores? I
He's
haven't.
not in LA right now.
Oh,
He left a long time ago for
yeah, yeah. Well,
another
I mean,
enterprises.
I think I'm gonna invite myself to Guadalajara to come
Yeah,
visit
yeah, sure.
because
And
I'm.
I think I'm going to Los Angeles in
Oh, that's right. You
September.
told me. Yeah,
Yeah,
September.
yeah.
I just needed the episode sooner.
No, no,
But we
that's
get
fine.
but when you're in town, yeah,
Let's
we'll
see if
definitely.
this helps. I don't know if there's anything salvageable about this, but anyway. Yeah,
No, no, you're fine.
so there's that. And then like I told you, I have family in LA, I have family in San Francisco. So it's not that unknown to me that and I like it. It's very
Yeah,
intoxicating. My favorite kind of film actually is like, you know, LA setting, kind of
yeah.
mysterious, kind of witchy.
Have you ever watched what's it called? Los Angeles Plays Itself. It's a
No,
documentary.
no.
It's a documentary that I've seen, but apparently it has rights issues because
It's not anywhere.
I don't know. I would try to find it. You could probably find it somewhere. But
Mhm.
but basically it's a guy describing how Los Angeles is represented in movies. And like some of it is like about how disrespectfully people talk about LA. You know, like he says
Yeah,
like they
yeah,
don't even say its full name. They call it LA. It's like they're
yeah.
dissing it, you know. So LA is a really interesting place. It's hard for me. Like I'm getting to the point where I'm like I'm never going to be able to afford property here, so I might as well start looking to gentrify Mexico.
Yeah.
But what's it called? The the scene here is pretty crazy. What it sounds to me, what's interesting about the way that you describe Mexico and their art scene is that it sounds to me that it's like a place that has a lot of a lot of history. So it
Yeah.
reminds me a little bit about Italy, but Italy is still so, I think they haven't even gotten past modernism to some degree,
Hmm.
you know, like in terms of like the cultural relevance
They're
there.
hung up on something.
Yeah, which is what the fascist artists, the futurists, were rebelling against,
Hmm.
which is like why they're one of the only avant-garde right-wing movements in art that
Yeah.
I know of. But but it's interesting because it sounds like I don't know, because like it just feels like Mexico is much more relevant of a country somehow because of its relationship to the US. like in terms of like now that the art scene out here in LA is getting bigger, a lot of
Yeah.
people are coming down. Was when was the Jalisco? When did Alex come to Jalisco? Was this recently?
I think it was pre-pandemic. I
Oh,
think it
okay,
was
okay.
probably 2019.
Because there was recently an event that they went down to.
Hmm.
But yeah, next time someone makes a
So
trip
he
out there,
was he was here, and Juan Capistran was here, and Hazel Mandujano was here.
I don't know.
They run in the same circle, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it was
But
fun.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, like that. I'm super interested in that scene in just in the Mexican art scene.
I mean, what you say is interesting because from one side, of course, there's a lot of history. History happens, but then there's also a lot of erasure of history,
Yeah, yeah,
and that is reflected in what's being produced every single day, and you see things, amazing things, but it's kind of sad that they come from people who are kind of lost in their identity. So it's an interesting phenomenon
Are
when
they
it happens
struggling with
here.
their identity? You mean, or what do you mean lost? Or are they wrapped up in the
Because
militancy of it?
it's the influence of the grift,
I
the
don't know what you mean.
hassle of the artist. Not It doesn't come from here. I mean, it's not something, for example, that our society would have come up by itself had it not been colonized, you know, had it
Mm,
not been under heavy influence from the US.
Europeans, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So it's 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 funny in its own way, and it has its own identity by not being anything at
yeah,
all. I mean, and sometimes you see things that are, worth looking at as a category, but I think there are no categories. I mean, there's punk, there's bourgeois, there's you know sexual stuff, everything.
yeah.
It's rich. That's why I say it's rich. And yeah, I like I told you, I tried, but not without a lot of laziness about it. I don't
Look,
like
man,
dealing with
I can tell
weird
you,
things.
I can tell you for someone who's not lazy about networking, it's a pain in the ass, and it
I've done it. I mean, I've
and
done
it will
it.
make you miserable sometimes. People are shitty. The scene is full of
Yes.
shitheads. It really is. Like there's a lot of people that posture and they want to get ahead and they want to pretend like they're really good people.
Hmm.
But like it's like anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then for me with the artist run scenes, like
Hmm.
when you're doing it for free and you're being an asshole and
That's another one. Yeah.
when you're doing it for free and you're being a gatekeeper, that
Yeah.
is sketch as fuck because
Hmm.
like that then that's just about
What
power.
credence is there? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's just about power. That's not even about
Hmm.
money. That's just about status. Like
Yeah.
and to me that is mind blowing. So
That's why I call it, like, they take this grift mentality
yeah.
that is not really honest, and that, in my opinion, it just detracts a lot from the potential of an otherwise very good artist.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of people like I I almost didn't foresee having status from doing the show. I just didn't plan it out. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
I knew that success meant being known, but I didn't know what that would mean in reality, which is like I know a lot of things about a lot of people that
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
talk about. I know, you know, like
That's something I was coming at. I want to know the tea, because you talk about what happened,
I
and in
mean,
your Instagram mainly, not necessarily on the podcast.
there
You
will
talk
be
about certain characters
there
that
will be some
make your
tea.
life a little bit harder.
There will be some tea eventually, I think. I just kind of wanna I think that there's a way to do things, you know.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to drag you into it. I'll tell you off air like what happened. But um
No, I mean, I have stories, man. Like, when these guys came over, um, first I was really drunk last night. I had a lot of fun, and then I think it hadn't worn off by that morning, and we went to this opening by them, and I was probably being an asshole. because I can't control myself when not good things happen when I'm forced to be in social settings that I'm not comfortable with. But anyway, so we have a crank relationship, my friend and I, my friend from Los Angeles and myself. So we would tease each other about a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't believe in many things. He believes in a lot of things, and I'm
Like
just
this is
not a
spiritual things.
and social things. And
Okay.
So I always make fun of that installation that we went in Los Angeles when I was there with
Oh
him
yeah.
because it's funny. It's funny. And it's not just me who says it. I mean, recently I was looking at a cartoon from New York Times or whatever, the New Yorker. And it described exactly that situation because it was a dark room, there were curtains, and they gave you earphones, and you would go in and interact with the pieces the way they told you to do. We had a
Yeah.
flashlight. So that was it, and it's funny, and it meant whatever it meant for the artist, and it meant whatever it meant for the people who saw it. But I like to tell the story because it's funny. And he just shut me off. Like,
Yeah.
don't talk about that here, please. And yeah, at this point, the statute of limitations has passed. I like to talk about that story because it's funny. And my friend will forgive me one day, or he won't. I don't know. But yeah, it's something that interests me. It's something that fascinates me. I just can't get myself to be around it like in depth.
Yeah, it's also a lot of small talk, that I have the advantage that I get to know people over an hour a span of time. So
Yeah.
like it makes socializing at these events. And then, and like it's since my dad passed away, I haven't been like
Yeah.
going out. I'm like,
Mhm.
fuck it. I don't want to fuck it. Like, have people be like, are you okay? Like,
So that's the
to some
thing,
extent,
and
it's a balance between wanting to people to understand what I'm going through, and then also,
exactly.
but also like so that they like give me space, but then at the
Yeah.
same time, like they'll give me sympathy, and I'm like, oh, I can't handle that.
You just finding an excuse to vent. It's fine, and you need that from time to time. But it goes back to what I was saying about honesty.
Yeah,
The less you have to do. I mean, if you go conceptual, art is a very different monster when you do it for yourself, and it's a very different monster when you put it out there for
yeah,
reasons other than yourself. So I'm reading also about kind of influenced by Buddhism
hmm,
at this point, not necessarily into the religion, sect kind of
it's a lot.
aspects of it. Yeah.
It's a lot of lack of desire, which I'm not okay
So
with.
yeah, I was watching your recent podcast. I think it was Renee from Montreal,
Oh, Renee, yeah,
and you
yeah,
talked about consciousness and all those things.
that's one of my favorite
There's
episodes.
things
She blew my
yeah, I
mind.
mean, like, yeah. So there's this book. It's called Meeting the Universe Halfway,
Uh,
uh, and it ties to Buddhist things. But I also have a more personal view. Let me read it because it's so beautiful. This is kind of like the basis of my philosophy, and it's Nahuatl philosophy. The Aztecs.
No, what? Yeah, actually, I
Yeah,
had a friend who's I have a friend who's been on the show, whose grandparents speak Nahuatl. They don't speak Spanish.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
fucking awesome.
I mean, I tell you, it's rich. Don't come fuck it up. I mean, if you come respectfully, please. So anyway,
I'm gonna put a
uh,
big American flag outside on the lawn.
don't please. Uh, anyway, it says it's kind of like some poems that they used to
Hey,
tell
at
to
least I
the
speak the
to the
language, okay?
Spaniards. I know, I know. I'm just messing with you. I don't care either way. But it's about how they realized that nothing good comes out from anything that you do here on this earth, right? Because there are no things that are permanent. It says, where was your heart? This is why you give your heart to each thing. No reason or rhyme to it. You take it everywhere. You go around destroying your heart on earth can you really go after something? And I really like it because it reflects my personality to a T almost, and I don't like doing things because things are pretty much meaningless here.
So you
And
have you ever read any Charles Bukowski?
I have some
Yeah,
his
yeah.
writings on writing mainly,
I think that you and Alex have a similar
but
nihilist.
yeah, so it's weird because it's not an isolated, isn't it? I mean, probably 30 years ago it was rare.
Uh-huh.
You log on to Instagram and you hang out in the same circles that I hang around, and you're gonna find that shit is popular. It's taking over.
That what's
So
popular?
the spiritual kind of like nothingness, don't do anything.
Oh yeah,
You're
yeah,
not
yeah.
here to be doing anything specific because everything goes away and everything is impermanent, blah blah blah.
Oh,
So
and
it
that's why
ties
you're
up
saying it's
nicely.
Buddhist.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So this book, Meeting the Universe Halfway, it says that there's no specific thingness to things
Yeah, yeah.
because things are both influenced by how we look at them, so they present to us in a particular way, um, and we impress onto those things of ourselves.
Do you like are you at all into any ritual magic and stuff, any of that stuff? Because I
No,
think
no, I mess with everything, but not believing in anything.
but have you read any of that stuff? Because I mean, this is kind of adjacent to
Yeah,
it.
I
You
have
just
books
you
on magic.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, and books on magic and rune shit, but not really believing it. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
for me, and if you were to be interested in knowing where my work goes,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that I'm working on that somebody will see one day, maybe that's the basis of it. So, for
Okay.
example, is there or is there no God? What's your stance?
Oh, I'm like how people have like crises of faith and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I don't really think about it until I need some comfort, and then God exists. And then if I don't, I just don't think about it. And so God exists when I think about
Yeah, yeah,
it.
it's a perfectly reasonable stance, and
Yeah,
even it's a scientific one. You know, there are no electrons; they just come up whenever you measure them.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's it's very reasonable. So that's the thing. You shouldn't be so sure about things because you don't
Oh,
know.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I think
a
philosophically, I'm pretty
very
much yeah,
a very sensible, a very grounded. So it's the same thing with art. You know,
yeah,
art gives us as much as we give to them. So if there's no way that it means the same for all people. It's not universal. And
like
there
an
are
art making or a piece.
the concept of art,
The concept of art.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, I
So
100% agree with you on that. That's
and
actually really profound what you're saying, because like generationally your ability to capture like yeah, I think that even when I talk to my mom, like in terms of just ceramics and where it was when
yeah,
she was learning it and how
yeah,
rigid and dogmatic it was, like
yeah,
it's crazy. No, but that is an interesting point. And like kids' idea of art is going to be so different because of how
exactly.
yeah,
So the aspect of criticism in under that view comes to irrelevancy
yeah,
even. So I am happy when people do whatever makes them happy,
yeah.
and that's why I'm leaning more towards um like a patron kind of role in
Of
the future.
art.
That's kind of like what I see
These are for
myself
sale.
when that's a big when, that's a big if, when my other projects
Don't go
come
around
to
calling
fruition.
yourself a patron in
Yeah.
front of artists, or they're gonna be like,
No,
"Yo,
no. I mean I like that. I like that because I have no real need to do things for myself. I mean I'm living
yeah,
in an entirely different world. But I mean if you do that like in all things, you will not do it objectively. You will have something of yours instilled into that patronship.
yeah,
So
yeah."
I'm looking for projects that will align to my other to deliver those.
So my work does it.
It's something I like to do. I like to talk about. I don't know what shape or form it will ever take.
Yeah.
I'm still figuring things out. I'm in a transition stage right now. I'm moving out this home, finding partnership with somebody in another home. So I'm
like
I'm
romantic
comfortable in
partnership
my
or okay.
yeah, my boyfriend.
Okay.
We're kind of getting married and whatever.
Oh,
Do socially accepted things.
is it married?
It's
Is it
allowed.
legal?
Yeah, I think you have to appeal if they deny it to you, but it should be hassle less. Like you get your permit and you do it. Yeah.
Yeah. How long ago was it legalized in Mexico? Do you know?
I don't know. It been through stages, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's been well over 5 years, I
Well,
think,
then
to do
congratulations
that.
are in order. You're getting married, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
You're announcing it here.
I don't know. I don't talk about my. I mean, this is why. Yeah. So like, let me show you. This is like 34 pages
Uh,
of medical assessment. So that's another topic that I like to nerd about. Like you told me,
a
a
medical what?
mental illness
Oh, mental.
assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. There are funny things in here. Like I, I was reading it because I haven't read it. I got it because I need it because I'm suing the government
Uh-huh.
for a pension
Uh-huh.
because of mental illness. So they deny it to me, so I'm suing them to get it. So things like that. But what came out, these pages are magical. I mean, I apparently I am egocentristic or whatever you say that. It makes sense. Egocentrical,
Oh, egocentric.
egotistic. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't. Yeah.
yeah. But you make art, so
I'm hetero-aggressive because I fight against things, systems, institutions, and
wait,
things like
hetero.
that.
What is it?
Hetero-aggressive.
But what doesn't that mean that you're aggressive towards heterosexual men?
No, I'm aggressive in a male hetero
Oh,
normative way.
okay.
So yeah, I get mad at things and break
You're probably
things, and
translating it from Spanish too, as you're
yeah,
describing it to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I don't know how to say
I
that
know.
in
I'm saying I
So
wouldn't
yeah,
know what the word for that is in English. It's probably. I mean, yeah. But anyway, go ahead. So then
but
you're.
yeah, no, that's another thing that ties into everything. And I'm not alone in this thing. People are identifying themselves as mentally ill persons more
Mhm.
and more and more every day.
I
So
didn't have a
I really
choice.
don't know. I really don't know what to do about this because I don't think this represents me in my totality. I
Yeah.
mean, I can speak for myself beyond a diagnosis. There's people who can't. I don't know, but I'm trying to use it as a source of inspiration and self understanding as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of good that it happened to me not necessarily this late in life because my mom was told that I would need psychiatric attention for my entire life, and she didn't do anything. So
But I mean,
that's
those are like not clinical. We don't have to get into like your actual clinical diagnosis, but like in terms of a diagnosis, you're anti-establishment and what was the other one? The other one you said? Yeah, that you're egocentric. I mean, like
yeah.
who the fuck isn't
I mean, I
egocentric at
know
least?
at
Yeah.
this point, I think we needed any weapon that we could harness to actually win the lawsuit. So it's very comprehensive, and
Yeah.
whatever is in the books that can support a claim, we put it in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
No, no,
it's
we don't have
fascinating
to get
because
into like the more
I didn't do it. I mean,
yeah.
if I'm honest, I didn't do it. A professional did it.
Yeah, yeah,
I told my story, so half of these pages is me telling my story, and the other one is his professional assessment.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm not telling lies. People think I'm crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean I have I can relate. I've had my 20s were spent with debilitating mental illness that I just
Yeah.
never got help for. I was like, and when I finally got help, I did an accounting, and I was like, oh, I've had 6 major depressions in my life, and I by the time
Yeah.
I was
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
30, I was just like maybe just take medicine, like that's it, because there is like
Exactly. The mindset before our current times was really dreadful. I'm also reading
yeah.
this book, and actually, my psychiatrist dismissed me. He didn't want to work with me anymore because I told him this. There's this book called On the Heels of Ignorance, and
Mm,
it talks about how the psychiatry profession has never had a firm grasp on what's actually ailing people. And they're
yeah.
just making shit up and they're guessing. And they somehow manage a way to retain their credibility
Mm.
by reinventing themselves. They're not finding actually more about their patients, they're reinventing the way they look at their patients. But that's just formalisms. So who knows? Who knows? Who knows what's going
I
on
think I heard
inside our
something about
heads?
that too. Like there was a, I forget exactly. I don't want to repeat the thing because then it'll be I don't want to misinform people. But there was a new thing that said that the way that that they think that some of these like antidepressants work, like
Yeah,
that the basis under which they thought they worked is not actually factual, which I say with
yeah,
cautiously because I take medicine and I know it works.
yeah.
So
I
that's
did
not,
too. Yeah.
yeah, that's not to say that the medicines don't work. That's to say that the
No, no, no.
what they have been saying is not necessarily accurate, which is an interesting thing because ultimately I
Yeah.
don't give a fuck because I the meds still work, you know. Like I don't want
and
to kill
and
myself.
then there's the opposite side as well. I mean, they are confirming right now that some drugs never work for some people,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's something that we're also hanging on from this thing
Well,
for
it's
the
always a
lawsuit.
delicate
But anyway,
it's a
yeah,
delicate
yeah,
balance
it's
because
yeah, yeah.
these
For
companies
some
make
people they work. Mhm.
no, and these companies make healthy shit, but like
Oh yeah,
stuff that's life saving.
to
But
see
then
this the
they also
selfless
give
interest.
everybody
No,
fucking oxycontin, you know,
yeah, yeah,
and so
yeah,
like you can argue whether it's like the scientists or the marketing department, but at that point, does it fucking matter? You know, like
yeah,
they're
yeah,
still harming people.
yeah.
But
So
that being
it's another
said,
thing.
antidepressants help people. So I encourage
Yeah,
people if
yeah,
you're depressed,
yeah,
get them. Don't let the
yeah.
fact that the companies are evil take away from the fact that you can get the
No,
medicine.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
And it's a very um because at the end of the day, it's like things and concepts. You cannot look at people like they're this unified mass of equal individuals. Each one is fucking unique, and they need
Yeah.
their own thing, their own balance. So and that's another angle that we're exploring because when they did the institutional assessment, when they denied my pension, they look at me like 1 hour. They said, "Oh no, you're okay,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
good."
Well, that's their
That
incentive.
goes to this information that even professionals have about this thing that is quite new.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the institutions lag behind. Some professionals lag behind the newest current trends and views on how to actually treat people respectfully. And I think things are about to change, but we cannot deny that, for example, in my case, this is also a political decision because we're talking about taxpayers' money
Yeah. Yeah.
that you may be giving to somebody who deserves it or maybe who doesn't deserve it. Um, but also, things are very dire as it is. We don't want to be spending money on a young person who maybe can, you know, hustle up and try it on
Yeah.
like a man.
No, and I mean
But
it
things are
also
not that way anymore. People
it,
are
if
very,
you
very easily affected.
if you were friends with somebody that was a politician, you probably would have a different outcome too, you
But
know.
no, I have to go through
Yeah.
the correct
Yeah, I
channels,
mean,
and it's
all
taking
these
forever.
institutions are always corrupted. Like it really
Yeah,
is. It is an amazing thing. Like just the fact that doctors can prescribe OxyContin because they got a
yeah,
trip to Hawaii and shit, and like that's not a problem because
yeah.
they hire they used to hire cheerleaders out of fucking. I mean, they probably still do. Like they
Hmm.
beautiful women become pharma sales reps and then they come and
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
accommodate the doctors. My uncle's a doctor.
Oh,
I
come
know
on!
where
I
the
saw
fuck.
that all the time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
know where the fuck. I know he's
People
all.
in their huge bags waiting in the
Yeah,
doctor's office. Yeah,
but like for example, you know it is crazy because even though the medicines that I take helped me, I've also been
Hmm.
assigned medicines that have harmed me. You know, I took
Yeah, yeah,
Concerta, which was
yeah.
Adderall with a time release thing,
Hmm.
and we think, uh, like we think that I don't want to say anything that might get me in trouble on YouTube, but in regards to how my father passed away, but I took that medicine, my siblings took that medicine, and my father took that medicine. And
Hmm.
when I took that medicine, and all my other siblings took that medicine, we stopped because I've done bad drugs like cocaine and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and it was like I was in class grinding my teeth,
Yeah.
right? It's like a stimulant.
Well, Adderall is it like meth
It's
based?
speed. I mean, I don't know if it's
It's
meth
been,
based.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's speed. I
It's
mean,
methamphetamine. Yeah.
yeah, it's probably, but that shit is
Hmm.
illegal in Italy. So when I went and I got on
Yeah.
my medicine, like the doctor there was like, I think it's crazy that you took this shit, you know? Like
Hmm.
and you know, and it's so interesting
And
because
people as young as what are taking it?
it's crazy
Eight
young.
years, 4 years?
Yeah, but that shit is hard on your heart, dog. You know, and
Hmm.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's so it is such a crazy thing to navigate. Like, there's this sense in America that people have right now that they want to go back to the time where there was truth, and
Hmm.
that notion is so faulty because there was never truth, there was only dogma. And that's what we're going back
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
We're becoming a
yeah.
dogmatic society where, like, now it's not the church. Like, people are like so anti-Christian, and I get it. I don't have a problem with people like resenting religion, but like, it's weird when you resent the people that are victims to a religion too, right? Like,
Mhm.
if you hate the institution, then, and you acknowledge that the institution is a bad thing, right? Like, then the people that believe in those things have been indoctrinated to some degree, right? Like, and so, like, that's one of the things that I find insanely racist about, like, Americans when they talk about specifically Mexicans. I, as a Cuban, I get offended
Mhm.
hearing this,
Mhm.
which is like, they're like, you got to vote for the vulnerable people. You got to vote for the POCs, vote for the people of color. And you're assuming that these people are not conservative. And these
Yeah.
people are conservative because they're victims of colonialization, right? Because
Yeah.
you know, and so, like, there's this like hatred that is there was recently a clip that was really fascinating of a woman in I may have talked about this before on the show, but of a woman that was in Canada, who was telling these Muslim kids that if they weren't willing to come to school on Pride Day, they needed to get out of the country. Now, like,
Mhm.
whoa, whoa. Because
Yeah. No. I mean,
I think there's a validity to the idea that, like,
it's
that gay people can be racist, right?
yeah. No.
That's something that's
And
not
you
acknowledged
know
here.
it's everywhere. It's everywhere. I mean, if we are to look objectively at the state of things, there's gay people going against trans people
Yeah,
for their
yeah.
own reasons. And that's what I mean. And I would close with this. You know, if we have this never-ending bickering scenario, and you could like just changing a few basic things of how you perceive yourself
Mhm.
and how you perceive the world around you, where is the duty of those people who actually know that there are greener pastures on this other side? I mean, you'd
You,
actually have to tell people you are both wrong,
yeah.
not in what you think about yourself, but in the attention that you put into the real problems that you get yourself into. Because they are complex problems, and some people don't think they are complex, and then they can just go and talk about them. They don't realize how deeply everything connected is. So I mean, what's the duty? Do you have to wake them up to both sides, to any side that
Well,
like
I
thrives in conflict?
I think my stance is always like, if someone, you know, like, the way I feel about it is, if someone is demonizing anybody, I'm not down.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
so like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you're queer and you're sitting here and you're talking shit about Christians, I'm like, I get where you're coming from, but I don't think that that's going to serve
Yeah.
anybody. And if you're
Yeah.
Christian and you're out here bashing gay people, I mean, like, just let people live, like, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it,
And I think it's an important update to make to all of our, stances and beliefs. I mean,
but I think that
people
that
have their reasons to talk about the things they talk. They have their reasons to believe what they believe in, and they have very important reasons to be who they say they are.
yeah, yeah.
But we need to set a precedent on how we communicate with each other, and do it sensibly.
I think that while we're talking about this, we probably are on that tip of like not of being more understanding of people's like background and where they're like where
I think the
what they're
option is there.
but I don't I think that like most of culture is going the opposite way. You know,
And I
I think it's like being not even conspiracy wise, like
No, 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 yeah,
what gets clicks. There's a
yeah,
reason that all these things pop up, all these right-wing culture war bullshit comes up on my YouTube, not because
yeah,
I'm interested in it, but because people are interested and it gets views, and then it gets
yeah,
put in front of me, and then I'm like, I don't really care, and then it like goes away, and then like that's when it hits its wall, right? But like
yeah.
people are so engaged in this that are like that I like on both sides of like of being like, you know, of culture war, just not, it's not even gay straight, it's just
No,
like
no. The
it's like
belonging, the sense of belonging is a really strong thing that works on our mind, maybe sometimes even without us knowing.
yeah.
So it's a cultural, problem. It's a cultural trap that you made all yourself. And there are solutions to that. There are solutions to that. I mean,
But like what would be the solution?
throw the baby out with the bathwater. Forget about culture.
Yeah, but that is like that is
And
that's like asking a person to
no,
like throw out their entire
there
history.
are ways, because if you see about the Buddhism and things like that, they have very strong arguments for that. They are strong, but the thing is, what I haven't settled on, maybe this world is already like that, and just some very few people get to be different, get to think different, and it's
Oh
us
yeah.
crazies and clowns. I don't know. I don't know what's the answer to
Yeah.
that problem.
No, I definitely think that I think that people are very I think that like people are very concerned with the nicheification of
Mm-hmm.
culture.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have a situation where you not only have where you have like you have Truth Social, which is like right-wing Twitter, you have Twitter, and then now you have
The
censorship
threats.
threads, right?
Yeah.
So like so in terms of like you I mean I get that you're saying the solutions are easy, but I think the critical mass is still yet to be hit
No, no,
in
and,
terms of
and
that.
that's what it is about anarchism. It doesn't get anywhere really, and it doesn't do it in a practical way, because it's
Mm.
not a method. It's kind of like an end goal. So, but maybe if we decide on an end goal, things would be much, much different.
I think you're gonna start a cult.
That some people say that
You
to me,
just have to
and
see
that's
through
no, no, that's the least of my hopes and dreams. No,
ambitions.
the lesser. No, no, no,
All
not
right, man.
interested. Yeah,
Well, I think we'll end on that. Don't go anywhere.
no, no, no. I'm around.
As I end the recording. But what
Yeah,
can we promote for you? You're
I
obviously on
just put
Instagram,
up my Instagram.
Righteous
That's
Geek.
where I publish my gay shit and my drawing shit.
Uh,
So
Your
yeah,
what
it's
shit?
just me.
Your
My gay
geisha?
shit,
Oh, your gay shit.
gay shit. Yeah, it's just me. It's just me. I don't do anything that's not me. I'm no
Okay.
masks there. Yeah,
And then cool, man. Thank you
yeah,
for stopping by, and we'll be back next week
yeah.
with
You got
another
it.
guest and another topic that may not be art related. All right. Hold on. Stop recording.